So, my favourite story of the week, by far, is a new announcement about a Monster World 4 remake. I look, if anyone doesn't know the Monster World series, they may at least know the wider series, which is known as Wonder Boy. So that's
Yeah.
obviously Wonder Boy is very, especially the first one. It's very was very popular in arcades and one of the most popular Master System games. And they've announced this week, leading up to Gamescom, that a remake of the Japan only Mega Drive 1994 classic Monster World 4, um, titled Wonder Boy Asha in Monster World, which is just a whole lot another level of confusion, which I'll get to. But this remake, originally the story was, it's a continuation in the series, it's a sequel, but news has since come out that apparently say it's a remake. Now, we'll see. Apparently, there's meant to be gameplay potentially shown across the Gamescom weekend, so I'm looking out for that. That should be obvious from the gameplay what it is, because you'll be able to see the level layouts and things like that. And I actually played through this game only a couple of years ago, and Monster World 4 is brilliant. It is actually 1994, so it came out quite late in the Mega Drive kind of lifetime, especially in Japan. And it is actually one of probably the best Mega Drive game I've ever played myself. Um,
Yeah, so I've played through a bunch of, Monster World, Wonder Boy, like whatever they're called. I just find that the series, and you know what, to be fair, like if I think about Nintendo and, think about all the Game Boy Advance releases, the whole Super Mario Advance 1, 2, 3, 4, and then what games they actually referred to in the series, that's completely convoluted.
this takes
But
the cake over that, though. We'll get to that in a second. But
well, yeah, that's kind of the big thing for me because I can't even navigate the series. It's hard for me to even get into it because it's
so,
like, what am I even playing?
so
What are these games called?
what I'll say to anyone that doesn't know much about Monster World 4 is that there's a female protagonist named Asha, very similar in design to Shantae in a lot of ways. It wouldn't surprise
Yeah,
me
she
if
looks like Shantae.
it wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me if this game essentially influenced the Shantae series. But
Mm.
the game itself is actually absolutely fantastic. Like from a gameplay and design standpoint, it's such a good game. And it was part of the Sega Ages collection, Monster World collection, that came out on Xbox 360 and PS3, I imagine. Where they had, let me just bring up my list to make sure I got this right. They had the second game, Wonder Boy Monster Land. Then they had the fifth game, which was Wonder Boy Monster World. And then they had Monster World 4. But this game, so this is apparently a remake from Studio Artdink, and is actually being made with members of the original Wonder Boy creative team, including the actual created series Ryuichi Nishizawa. And it's been announced for PC, PS4, and Switch in early 2021. And this is actually interesting. So in recent, let's say, last 5 years, there's been a whole lot of movement in this series, in the Wonder Boy series.
Mm.
So
It
first
has
in
actually, yeah.
2016, there was a remake of the first Wonder Boy. Then there was the very acclaimed remake of Wonder Boy 3, which was Wonder Boy The Dragon's Trap in 2017. And then there was a brand new series called Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom in 2018. And those last two games essentially on, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. And the weird part is when you include this game, that means all four of these most recent games, they're actually all made by different developers and all published
Yeah,
by different people. It
I
is
know, but
so
that's what's so
weird.
weird about it.
It is
That's what's so
super
weird
weird.
about it.
It is
Yeah.
super weird. And when we talk about that series, the history, so basically the way it works, right? I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's just a minefield, but the original Wonder Boy was came out in an arcade and ported to a whole bunch of
Mm.
systems. I remember
I
the
played that
Master
game.
I remember the Master System one the most fondly myself. That game was ported by Hudson Soft to the NES and MSX as Adventure Island. Then that whole series was its own thing. So let's just forget about Adventure Island. But they're
Okay.
connected to that first game. So
Mm.
that's its own weird confusion
I
there.
didn't even know that it's an adaptation of Wonder Boy. It
Yeah,
makes so much more sense now.
yeah, because he's riding the skateboard and he's throwing
Yeah.
and I think he was named in our territories as Master Higgins in the Adventure Island games. but they became their own very different thing. Then there were essentially 6 games. The original Wonder Boy, then Wonder Boy Monster Land, then Wonder Boy 3, and then different Wonder Boy 3 on Master System, The Dragon's Trap. Then they had Wonder Boy Monster World and Monster World 4, and they're kind of like the 6 classic ones that was from 1986 to 1994. But of those 6, only 4 of those are part of the Monster World series. And if you look at the Japanese titles of them, it makes more sense. But when you start looking at the, the international titles, I mean, Monster World 4 never came out internationally anyway. But there's no indication that there's a whole Monster World series. But in Japan, there was. It was like a sub-series. But this is... Yeah, I'm super excited for this. I'm looking forward to gameplay. If it looks anything like either of the Dragon's Trap remake or Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, then I'm all for it. I've heard amazing stuff about Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, which was an entirely original sequel to the games. So I'm absolutely pumped for this. Just the whole titling it Wonder Boy Asha in Monster World is just it just continues the series legacy. It's so on brand of just confusing titles. I love it.
It is, and I'm so glad you've explained this because Dragon's Trap, I think I played the demo or maybe I've got the game.
And by the way, no run sheet. If you look at that tab,
yeah, I am. Yeah. It's really, we should publish this. This is helpful. I was like, oh, this is a really cool game. It's hand-drawn art. It looks awesome.
Yeah.
And then Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom came out. I was like, huh? Is this like the same people? Like, I was kind of confused.
They were so close together. I remember, I think Monster Boy got potentially announced before the Dragon's Trap remake had come out, I think. And everyone's like, wait, what's happening here? Is this another remake? Or no, it's an original thing, but it's different developers. What the hell?
And it reminds me of basically the prime angry video game nerd, 10 to 15 years ago videos. And there was a video he did where he's talking about Rambo and First Blood and all that stuff. That kills me every time. And it's, man, I don't, there's no way he covered Wonder Boy, but far out. I'd love to see his take back in those days on Wonder Boy. Because it is so confusing.
But no joke, Monster World 4, the Mega Drive game, and I say Mega Drive because it never came out in the US, so it's definitely Mega Drive in Japan.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, true.
But that game is really, really good. So, if this is just a new coat of paint on the game, it will be a fantastic game. Just the core gameplay itself.
And they kind of... The thing I didn't realize with Monster... I keep on trying to refrain from saying Monster Hunter World. With Monster World and Wonder Boy and things like that, is they've got a Metroidvania type of feel to them.
Yeah, so I can't speak for Wonder Boy 3 Dragon's Trap, but I believe it was. But I know Wonder Boy Monster World, which was the 5th game, that definitely had... Metroidvania, I'd say closer to maybe Zelda 2 is very kind of, where it's scaled back. But with Monster World 4, it had a whole hub town area, but then you went into the individual, I guess, lands, and then you came out of them again back to the hub world with new abilities and new things like that. So definitely, I think, when did Super Metroid come out? Was it 93 or 94?
94.
So the fact that this came out the same year as Super Metroid, Monster World 4, if this had come out to other outside of Japan, I think this would be super fondly remembered. But it never did. It's such a shame. Yeah.
And, it's definitely one on the docket that we need to add. It's funny when you said Super Metroid because it's burnt into my brain, the copyright, in the year, 1994. But, the thing that I thought was interesting, because, for most people, they'd consider Super Metroid and then Castlevania Symphony of the Night as being the kind of genre starters of that Metroidvania title. There was even recent articles recently around some of the creators of these games, and they were actually sort of saying that Zelda was a huge inspiration for those games. And when you think about it, especially Link to the Past, it's kind of that, you want to go get this item, go through this dungeon, get this thing, and then it unlocks something else in the world. So it's kind of moving from that perspective to a platformer perspective, and it is kind of that kind of game.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind Cool. Is there anything else you wanted to cover on the Monster World 4
No,
remake, potential
no.
remake?
What I might do is, if they do put out actual gameplay or a trailer, maybe we'll just touch on it next week if there's any
Yeah.
corrections or any kind of cool things that came out from it.
Yeah. And it's coming out early 2021.
Yep.
Something to keep an eye on.